2464 Pod. Nick Fazekas from the Lynx. John Ramey with you from the biggest little city. Nevada absorbing back-to-back lopsided losses and headed to Boise State, the team with the second best defense and the second best shooting percentage and the third best overall offense in the conference. So it's not going to get easier, Nick Fazekas, but I just think the last two games, a 21-point loss at Utah State and a 19-point loss at home to San Diego State. I've used the term crisis in my column today in Nevada Sports Net. I had the coach's show with Coach Alford last night. There was an extra degree of fieriness, and the conversation with Coach Alford kept coming back to toughness and consistency. I mean, we saw 8 really tough minutes from Nevada to start against San Diego State, but it's a 40-minute game.
Yeah, it's just I look back and offensively to get to 50 is not something that you're going to be proud of. You're going to hang your hat on. And we did the Utah State game together, and like offensively, it just felt like everything was like clicking, everything was moving in the right direction. Of course, there was turnovers against Utah State, but it just looked like a different animal against San Diego State. And like you said, San Diego State is a great defensive team. But kind of like we also said, are they that great defensively to be holding teams to 50, especially at home? And the Pack is definitely good enough to get a lot more than 50 points, if you ask me. But yeah, I think crisis is probably the key word at this point, and definitely something that Nevada is going to need to figure out. This could be sort of you know, the the Y in the road where it's either you're going to go this way or you're going to go that way.
One thing Coach Alford talked about on the coach's show last night was teammates holding each other accountable. This is something you hear about from every coach, and every coach that's played said every great team has that. Were you a guy that would get into another teammate, or did you have a guy when you played at any level that you remember being kind of the accountability guy? Because I would think, we hear people talk about it all the time, but it's a little different to actually be that guy in a locker room. Nobody really wants to be the crossing guard. Nobody wants to be like, the,
Yeah, no one wants to
you know
be
what I'm
that
saying?
guy that has to
Yeah.
like call everyone out or like you said, the crossing guard. No one wants to have to police
The
anyone and
hall monitor,
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy. I know for myself, it just always kind of felt like lead by example. Like again, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna play hard, you're gonna give everything you have. And guys feed off of that just as much as the hall monitor. And did we have a hall monitor? I mean, I would say probably the best guy that comes to my mind was Todd Okeson. He did a pretty good job of making sure that he pushed guys to the limit or the level that he knew guys could get to. The teams after that just felt like when guys would make mistakes, it just felt like kind of everyone like looked the other way. Not look the other way, but kind of looked at the guy like, hey, like you can do better than this. But we didn't really have that sort of hall monitor. I think as I got later in my career, leading by example, I did become more of a vocal leader. But again, to me, sometimes to be that hall monitor, to be that guy that is going to be that vocal leader, you have to come and play consistently and bring it every single night so that everyone is like, well, John, he only plays well once every 5 games and he's trying to police me. Like, well, who is he to police me? You know what I mean? So you need a guy that's just going to consistently do that. And being that vocal leader versus that leader by example is two very different beasts at the same time.
Yeah, I was saying, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish your point. If anything, I'm trying to amplify it. It's probably more effective to lead by example when you play like Nick Fazekas, right? Because you bring pretty high level every night. So you're kind of just the lead dog in the stat sheet. And if anybody takes issue with anything that you might say or do, it's like, well, let's talk about, like let's just
Yeah,
go to the tape here and
for
see what's
sure, for
really going
sure.
on. And so I
Yeah.
don't know if I mean we do know Nevada's not getting anything like Nick Fazekas level consistency from anybody in the starting lineup or on the roster, and so maybe that makes it more difficult to lead by example.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess just kind of looking at it as this season has kind of progressed, is there that alpha? Like, I don't know if there is. I don't know. we've done enough podcasts, called some games, watched plenty of basketball games this year to like kind of say like, is it Kobe? Is it Nick? Is it the guy that comes off the bench and kind of sparks the team? Like, who is it? Like, it's hard to put your finger on any one particular player at this point. And that's when collectively as a group, it kind of needs to be like play for the man next to you instead of having that alpha dog, which that can lead to a successful team as well, to where it's like it's a band of brothers to where everyone wants to play for each other and views it as this may be the last time I'm playing with so and so or whatever that might be. So there's different ways to have success, but yeah, looking at who is that alpha, it's just that guy hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, Coach Alford straight up said it on the coach show last night. He says we don't have that guy, and it was really interesting to compare last year and Jared Lucas in particular because Jared came by the team before the game, and was in the Lannis facility and ate the pregame meal and then sat and watched the game and we also had Trey Coleman and Daniel Foster on after Coach did his segments, and they said, "Oh yeah, Jared calls us and checks on us and talks to it and watches every game and has notes and it's like, man, like yeah, that those guys don't grow on trees, and when they're
Yeah.
in the locker room, you sure realize they're there, and you miss them when they're gone."
Oh, totally. Jared was a great leader. And again, it's hard for me to recall. I don't know if Jared was always the leading scorer of every game or was he even the leading scorer of last year's team, but he was the guy that was going to show up. I would imagine Jared had a very positive attitude every single day where he was trying to push guys, trying to get the most out of guys. And at this point, you just don't have a Jared Lucas in your locker room at this point, which just can be frustrating, I'm sure. I mean, if you have a group of guys that don't want to be the alpha, then no one really knows. It's a lot of people just don't know how to do it or don't want to do it. They just want to go out there and hoop and be part of a team and play their role. But yeah, I'm sure Steve is a little bit frustrated at this point that he hasn't been able to find that guy to kind of push this group and sort of lead the group.
But Nevada has more than half the conference season left in the regular year plus the tournament. So they can't wave the white flag. It'd be a shame. They're actually far too talented a roster to do so.
Totally.
And the next step is at Boise State. And you look at what the Broncos are doing. They're holding teams to fewer than 68 points per game. They're averaging nearly 78 points per game. They can shoot it real well. They're third in scoring margin. They're averaging a double-digit win. At what point do the tough challenges in the league stop being opportunities and start being just like incoming fire? And how does Nevada have to approach this game? Because they can only think about this game.
Yeah, I just think like that's kind of the beauty about the Mountain West. I mean, it's just the parity's there. There's a lot of teams that, we've talked about it, the Mountain Wacky, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But again, you're going to Boise and they're a good team. If I'm not mistaken, they were picked to win the league. So they're one of the better teams in the league. So that's the fun thing about the Mountain West is every single night's a challenge and a challenge to kind of make a step in the right direction and go in the right direction and start to build momentum, no matter whether it's Fresno, Boise, San Diego State, whoever it might be. So my thing is that I feel like that locker room and that group needs to kind of look at Boise as a time to start moving in the right direction. If you're starting to think about your resume, you're starting to think about March, like you said, Wednesday, tomorrow night is the key. It's not thinking about March. Are we going to get in the tournament? How's the Mountain West going to play out? Da, 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 da. That's not your key right now. It's the key is trying to find some momentum to start building here, at the beginning of February, late January.
I mean, I pointed it out in my column that's coming out today on nevadasportsnet.com. The great thing about crises in sport is that at least the beginning of the solution is the next game and a win, right? If Nevada can somehow conjure a victory tomorrow night, Wednesday night at Boise State, suddenly, I mean, almost in the blink of an eye, this just seems a lot more manageable. And, I suppose that's hard to remember when you're in the thick of it and you're trying to figure it out. But yeah, Nevada's 40 minutes away from having a real return to optimism and we can do this spirit. Have you been in a similar situation, either professionally or at Nevada as a player, where it was kind of, oh man, we're taking some blows here and we've got to find a way out of this?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Sweet 16 team, my freshman year, we didn't win a single road game. the whole season in tournament or in conference, and we just kind of always hung our hat on playing at home. But we had beaten everyone in the conference, and I don't know if Nevada. I don't know if they lack that belief that they can't beat everyone in the conference because they've played Utah State tough, went to New Mexico, played them tough. Boise will be the first time to see them, but yeah, I mean, you have to have belief that you can beat everyone in the conference, and that was kind of that same thing that we had with the Sweet 16 squad. That when it finally got to Mountain West time, it was like, well, we've already beat these guys. We've already beat these guys. But the last thing you want to do is sort of show up to that Mountain West tournament with maybe there's a foe that you haven't beaten, and now you might see them in the tournament. But I mean, Nevada plays competitive games, just has trouble winning these competitive games. And then, yeah, these last two games maybe are a bit of an anomaly, if you want to call it that. But it's crisis mode. I think you're right.
All right, you and I are on the game tomorrow night, Wednesday. It's a 7 o'clock Pacific time tip, 6:30 airtime. You can listen to Nick and me, 95.5 FM, the Varsity Network app, thevarsitynetwork.com. Nick, where are you playing? Where are you playing right now?
I am playing at Kierland here in North Scottsdale.
Nice, nice. How you hitting them?
I'm playing well. Got my handicap to about a 7. Would love to find a way to get it down. If any of the viewers out there want to help me out or got a way to help me out, I'd love to hear it. But golf is the forefront of my life to go along with obviously Nevada hoops.
Yeah, it's 20 degrees in Reno right now, so our golfers are looking longingly at the sunshine and the fresh grass behind you.
Yeah.
All right,
We
he's Nick Fazekas. Oh, I just cut you off. What you were going to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say we live the dream out here in Phoenix, North Scottsdale. We've got this great weather. Uh, Polo shirts and pants today. I mean, it's just hard to beat this weather.
All right, well, make sure you bring a sweater to Boise. All right, he's Nick. I'm Ramey. 2464 Pod. We'll talk to you tomorrow night from Extra Mile Arena. Peace.